All right, so Siddhant, we are here together. Finally, I'm excited to interview you. And for those of you who are joining right now, this is another episode of SaaS Founder Interview, where we interview amazing SaaS founders with experience, with awesome products, and they're sharing their golden nuggets here. And today we are here with Siddhant Minocha. Hope I pronounced your name correctly. And before I will introduce you a little bit further, how much time per day do you spend on maintaining your awesome beard?
that comes naturally to me.
All right, so you're the lucky ones. As you can see, I'm not that lucky. Anyway, Siddhant, you are a founder of InClick, previously Twitix or something like this.
Yes, exactly.
And it's a social media listening and tracking tool for pretty much everyone. I was actually surprised that you're not like niche specific, but you're literally saying that you are for everyone. You are for startups, you are for enterprises, and so on. And you founded this company in 2016, and it's completely bootstrapped. At least as far as I know. And what it does, it actually helps you to manage your social media efforts through AI-powered data from all the major social media sites. So that's about the introduction. And why don't you introduce yourself a little? How did you get into the online marketing, into SaaS in general? And what was like your very first step when you were young, Siddhant?
Okay, so actually I started programming at a very early age. I've been a web designer for a very long time. I've done a lot of freelancing in my college days. So this was somewhere in 2015. And you might have heard, like, India is the biggest democracy in the world. So elections are a pretty much big deal in India. You keep having elections every couple of years in India. Mm-hmm. So this was in 2015 when people were just moving to digital. Politicians, parties were moving to digital. So somebody came to me, somebody reached out to me, a friend of mine actually, and he wanted to just understand what people are talking about a specific politician or a party. He just wanted to understand sentiments. So that's how our listening journey began. We created the first product. We started calling it Twitix. So it was Twitter Analytics, Twitix.
That's perfect.
But then moving forward, we rebranded ourselves into InClick because we launched a couple of more products. So we realized Twitix could be a little bit, giving a hint like this is only Twitter oriented. But then we included Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, pretty much everything. So that's how we rebranded ourselves.
That's awesome. All right. So before we jump into the specifics of what InClick does, it's actually quite funny because a lot of SaaS founders, I would say maybe like 50% of SaaS founders I've interviewed so far, start in the web design, start developing websites. Why do you think is that? Like, why do you think that that's the entry point for most of the SaaS founders?
So the core concept of a SaaS is actually always built on a web platform. Mm-hmm. For example, like let's say you're building a game or you're building a small application. You might be a programmer, a developer for Java or something. If you're a SaaS founder, SaaS applications, the first step SaaS applications have is a web platform. For a web platform, people
it comes natural, like you'll be.
It comes natural, right? Exactly. Web developers create web applications. That's how it works.
Perfect. So I actually did some research about you, and you are a solo founder, aren't you?
Yes, actually, I am a solo founder.
That's actually quite interesting because most of the founders are actually starting with some friends or something, or with colleagues too. And one is usually very marketing oriented, and one is usually tech oriented. But you started at age of 18 as a CTO in a company, social network, some sort of social networking app, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. I was taken aboard as the CTO of that company. That was back in 2012 or 13, I guess. And we were I mean, the startup industry was really booming in India. People were just had just started moving online. They had just started signing up on Facebook, Instagram. So we created a small social networking app at that time. It was also a website. We did it for some time, but we realized it's going to be really hard to give Facebook a fight. So we
Yeah.
kind of Facebook had already become the monster, of the industry in countries like US, UK, and India. It was still coming, but yes, it was a big company.
But anyway, you had the quite courage to compete with these big guys.
Yes.
Anyway, Siddhant, before we continue, for all of you who are joining right now, we are here with Siddhant Minocha, and he's a founder of Inklik. And if you have any social media account, actually Inklik is a tool you might consider using, because it helps you to track everything you do on these social media accounts. All right, so and of course, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them down in the comments, and I will ask them Siddhant, and he will answer them. All right. Anyway, so how this idea was actually born? What was the first step when you like woke up and you said, all right, this might be a cool thing to build, or how did it all started?
So as I mentioned earlier, we started as a Twitter analytics tool only. We were just trying to analyze a few Twitter tweets. That was the main point where we started. That was the starting point of the entire Inklik journey. Later, I realized when I started reaching out to clients, to people who could be using it, I realized Twitter is a very small market. I mean, it's a big market, but it's very limited. The companies might be using if they're running campaigns, they might be running it on all networks, on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube. So just giving reports for one network was not going to work. We realized that. So that's when we started thinking of what we could do with other platforms. So I did my own research. I found out that that there are a lot of tools that offer you how your channels are performing. So I mean, like there's Crowd Social, there's Buffer. There are so many tools that offer you what you are doing. You just you just log in with your Facebook. They do their own calculations, pull data from Facebook Analytics, and give you some good insights. But
And
we realized
you started with Twitter because of the political situation in India, to analyze what is happening.
what's actually happening in what's actually what people are actually looking for in India at the time of elections. So that's how we started. But then, so at that time, my brain set was a little inclined towards this political situation. Later on, I realized that we could really use it well in marketing agencies, for brands, for companies who are who are spending a lot on marketing. So that's how we transitioned. We kind of pivoted from being a Twitter listening tool to a social media marketing platform.
You are saying we. So how many people are actually working on Inklik right now?
So until the last October, it was just me. I've ran Inklik for about 2 years alone. From the last October, we've grown to 5-6 people now.
Okay.
And I think we don't really need a lot of people, because SaaS companies, I think they work like that only, because there's so like we're just focusing more on marketing and sales now, because the development is kind of done. The product is mature enough to serve a lot of audience. So not focusing on a lot of team growth right now, but just trying to get into just letting people know that we are there for this purpose.
I understand. I actually want to step back a little to what you mentioned earlier about the pivot from the Twitter analytics tool for like the full suite for all the major social media platforms. How did this transition go? Did it go actually smoothly? Because you actually decided that you want to serve more social media platforms, and that's what you are doing right now. But what were the steps between to actually create this transition successfully?
So we had to rework the entire product. I remade the entire product. There's the core of our Twitter listening platform and the core of the current product. are completely different. So yes, the transition was not so smooth. Everything we had made till date, we actually lost all that because we were coming out with this new product. Also, Twitter listening is something that mainly advanced users use. People
Okay.
who have a like a strong hand in digital. However, I feel like social media analytics, the kind of tool that we've made right now, can be
Mm-hmm.
used by anyone. Let's say he's just a one person founder of a small company, or let's say, or our current customers who happen to be agencies,
Mm-hmm.
big agencies. Like
Yes.
we're working with some of the biggest agencies in India at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So we've made a tool that could be used by anyone. So the
Mm-hmm.
transition, we had to rework on a lot of things. We had to learn a lot of things. But after doing that, now we really feel good, like that what we did was right, because
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the kind of results that we're getting are amazing.
That's perfect. All right. And how did you decide like what platforms, what social media sites you want to include after this transition? Did you actually go out and ask these agencies, hey, what would you like to track? Or did you actually have the experience to do the decision by yourself?
So this very funny thing happened. We really went out to take feedback from a lot of users, current
Yes.
users, and we were thinking people are going to say include LinkedIn or include, I don't know. I mean, I was just thinking people are going to say include LinkedIn because that's the main platform that we don't
Mm-hmm.
have. I was somehow hoping people will say include Pinterest,
Mm-hmm.
but the answer that came, that that was completely different. People want us to include TikTok in the
Okay.
so that's a very funny thing also, but that gives you a very, you I mean, how the market is moving. Just
Mm-hmm.
how how TikTok, like it used to be a very small app just to make videos, but now big agencies that are 250 plus people strong are
Mm-hmm.
asking us to include TikTok. So the social media market is changing like really quick.
Mm-hmm.
Before you could just understand what's next, something completely different is about to happen.
Yeah, and I mean, not only like that, new platforms are being born, but all the features, all the new updates within the already existing platforms. It must be like crazy to keep up with all these new things. How do you actually manage to track and monitor everything what is happening on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn? How do you do it?
So yes, that part is a little bit difficult because things keep changing very quickly. Even with Facebook, what's happening these days is Facebook is coming up with different APIs every day. So in the last F8 developer that Facebook F8 conference that Facebook organizes, Facebook has changed so many APIs. They've released a new graph API version. They've released new marketing APIs. So that part is a bit difficult to keep a track of all the changes that are happening, because even the smallest changes can break the complete platform.
Mm-hmm.
Once an API from Facebook or API from YouTube stops working, the entire platform stops working.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yes, that is a bit difficult, but the tech team actually has to stay very strong on it.
Mm-hmm.
And even till date, I mean, I do a lot of programming myself also.
Okay.
Whenever I really love programming, so whenever I get time, I dig into that. So I do a lot of customizations myself in the program.
Yeah, I actually noticed that you are maybe more on the tech side, isn't it? Isn't it true? Because when you were explaining everything, you were talking a lot about what you had to develop and so on, and not so much about the customer, for example. And I'm complete opposite, for example.
Yes.
So are you actually more like technical oriented?
So yes, I am a bit tech oriented.
Mm-hmm.
You could say that, but now since I've become the founder, so
Yeah.
I do have to take the business decisions also.
Mm-hmm.
When
Mm-hmm.
we're going out for a meeting with a client, I have to be there. So I'm also making estimates, quotations, these kind of works.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yes, I'd rather say that I am more oriented. I would just say that I love tech. So
Yeah.
yes,
Awesome.
I'm always going to be a part of tech.
All right. You said that you're doing quotes, estimates, and so on, and it means that you need to have like some source of customers. What are the growth channels? What are your customer acquisition channels you use the most at this moment?
So so at the moment we just work in India. We're working with Indian customers only, mainly agencies. These agencies are pretty big. Some of them have over 250 employees.
Okay.
One agency is a part of the biggest advertising group. We do have, so some agencies are working with us for over 80 brands.
Mm-hmm.
They're tracking over 80 brands on the platform. So uh, at the moment we just reached out to these customers via emails. Like this was pure sales channel, reaching out
Mm-hmm.
via emails, taking follow-ups on phone. But we've recently started our own content marketing channels. We've become very active on social media.
Mm-hmm.
We started spending on digital advertising also. So yes, we're moving towards all those the typical SaaS marketing channels, like how how SaaS companies work. There's a proper funnel. People see your ad, or people see some kind of content that you post. They reach out to your website, then they take a trial, then they take a demo. So yes, we're also going towards that direction. But until now, we're just doing emails and phone calls.
I like it. It's actually like you're getting your hands dirty, because a lot of people, a lot of founders are looking for like shortcuts to create I don't know, automated sales funnel to generate leads on autopilot while they're asleep. But you actually pick up the phone, or you just sit on your computer and you just reach out to customers, which is actually really great. How fast did you get your first customer when you started doing this outreach?
It took me a complete 1 year to get the first customer, but the
Really?
first customer is like the
Oh,
biggest customer till
yeah.
date. Yeah, that is definitely the biggest customer till date. So I don't mind that I spend so much time getting the first customer,
Mhm, mhm.
but in the end, it's all worth it.
But it wasn't like that you were 1 year trying, not getting any customer, but you were actually developing the platform, or?
Yes, of course, we were developing the platform. We were doing so many changes. Even when there was no customer, I was constantly building things. I was constantly
Mm-hmm.
coming out with new features. At least I was trying to come out with new features. So
Mm-hmm.
when we got our first customer, the product was so good. They couldn't say no. In fact, they doubled the contract after the first month of trials.
Okay.
So that was a winning point for us, because I knew, like, okay, what the time that we've spent on has been, result oriented. We've got results for that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the ticket size that we as in click charge is a bit higher than a typical SaaS company. A typical SaaS company would charge you around $39, $49, $59. Our customers at the moment pay us more than $399 per month, or $499 in some case.
And why is that? Is it because you're targeting like bigger customers and not, or why do you charge more?
So at the moment, yes, we are targeting big customers only, enterprise customers only. But now we've started to focus on smaller customers also. We're running ads. In fact, this month only we've launched a new package that is $99 only. So like we had a debate whether we should do it or not. But we thought like we should now move towards a we should also focus on these smaller, like the people who are starting up, or smaller agencies.
Mm-hmm.
So moving towards that also. But yes, till the date we've only been targeting big customers.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. All right. You mentioned that you're building features and so on. How do you actually decide like what feature is the best? Do you listen to your customers? Do you talk to them? Or what is the process behind choosing what feature to build next?
Every feature that we build is actually the customer's call. We don't
Mm-hmm.
really go out now and think that we have to build this or we have to
Okay.
build that, because our ideas, to be honest, as a founder, my ideas are always wild. I'd like to build this, I'd like to build that, but the customers don't want that. Customers come up with, because they have those real problems, and my
Yeah.
our mission is just to solve those problems. So
Mm-hmm.
we let the customers decide what do you want us to build. Just let us know on an email or a call, and we'll do that for you. So all the next features are, yes, the customers have told to build us, so we're building them.
All right. So when you hear some feature, so you actually go out and you give it to your team of 6. And my next question is, how do you decide like who to hire? Who is the right fit for you? Because I know that there are a lot of programmers and a lot of developers in India who know how to code. So in the end, it's all what like decides whether you will work with them is how they are as a people, or am I right? Or how do you actually decide who's the right fit?
Uh, so we have a very unique policy of hiring people.
Okay.
We
Tell
only
me.
hire we only hire PhDs. So PhD is people who are passionate, hungry, and doers. So
I love it.
we
I
don't
love it.
we don't really care about what degree you have, what is your background experience.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really care about anything.
Mm-hmm.
So our office remains open 24/7. We have a very cool working culture. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
people work in shots. People, it's very cool. We just hire people who want to work and who want to do something. That is the only policy.
Mm-hmm.
Of
Mm-hmm.
course, there's a screening process. We give people some tasks to do. Like,
Of course.
if we're hiring someone for a business developer position, I ask them to write a very tricky email. Like, we give them a make or break situation. Like, if you like, for example, draft a reply to this email. Now, this
Mm-hmm.
email that you have to draft is a make or break situation. You've worked on this lead for 3 months. Now you've given a code to your client. Now your client has told you this. Now draft a reply to this email. So we do this
Mm-hmm.
for business guys. For tech guys, what we do is we kind of create a small sample of the kind of feature that we want to
Mm-hmm.
build.
So
But
having a PhD quote unquote isn't
yes,
enough. They actually need to have some like some knowledge and expertise in a skill. All right, and you mentioned before we actually went live one interesting thing, which is quite unusual when it comes to tech startups, and that's that you have a really strict work hours. That you come at some hour in the morning and you leave exactly at sometime in the evening or in the afternoon. Why do you actually do it? Like, why don't you work like day and night like every other startup?
no. So I think that's a personal call mainly. But I mean, we definitely want our company to grow, but I don't want my company to grow at other people's expense. I don't want people spending so long on their desk that
Mhm.
they start suffering with health issues. So we're trying to keep it cool. I mean, it's okay if we have set our goals, but it's okay if we reach on our goals 1 year later or 6 months later. I don't mind. We
Mhm.
we we achieve our sales targets 15 days later. I don't mind that. But what really bothers me is that someone who's leaving his family and sitting in office till 12 a.m., 1 a.m.
Mhm.
working.
I
You
get it.
know, I I wouldn't want that.
That's actually really nice, and I think that part of the reason why you had this approach is like that you don't mind if you hit targets 15 days later is because you're bootstrapping. And you don't have anyone above you saying, "Hey, why you didn't hit your goals," and so on. Why did you actually why do you prefer this bootstrapping approach instead of inviting investor on board, for example?
So it's not like we thought like we'll go bootstrapping. My initially I was always, in fact, I started chasing investors when I started. We did that for a long time. So investment in SaaS is a very vicious circle. Your investors want traction. To get that kind of traction, you need money, and to get that money, you need an investment. So my investors kept telling me that you need some traction, you need to get some clients, you need to get some clients. Fortunately for me, the first client was big enough that we could run our operations for a long time. Then we got our second client, then third client, then fourth client. So we've been profitable from the day we started. We got our first client. We we never felt the need to raise an
Yeah,
investment.
Yeah, it's actually funny. So you when you were starting, you wanted investment, but then you got to your first, second client, and you were like, okay, I don't need investor anymore. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Anyway, Siddhant, I think it's slowly time to wrap it up. And before we will continue to your 90-second pitch, there's a question I love to ask most of the founders, not most, but every founder I interview here and SaaS expert, which is if you would be starting out again, let's say in 2016, and you would have all the knowledge you have right now, what would you do different?
So I'd focus on just one thing, and that would be onboarding, as in the sign-up process of the SaaS tool.
Onboarding clients or onboarding new team members?
The onboarding process for clients.
Okay.
Let's say some user has signed up on the tool.
Mm-hmm.
Now those 2 minutes or 3 minutes that he's going to spend on your tool trying to set himself up, those are the most important minutes. Because if your tool is good enough that the customer stays on it for 3 minutes, 5 minutes, he gets what he needs, you are halfway there. That customer is definitely going to close. The mistake that we did was we did not focus on the setup process so well. The setup process was really difficult. There was manual intervention required while you sign up. So we reworked the entire thing, and we're getting much better results now. So I mean, if I have to tell this to someone who's starting a SaaS company, I would just say focus more on your setup process, the welcome screen, create tutorials, create step-by-step tutorials. But that is the most important thing for a SaaS product.
That's really interesting because you already spend so much money and time on acquiring customers, but after they log into your platform and they don't know what to do, well, you pretty much lost them. That's a really good advice, and I actually haven't heard it while interviewing anyone here. So yeah, that's really gold nugget. Anyway, Siddhant, so I think we can continue to your 90-second pitch whenever you are ready, because we are already talking for almost 30 minutes now. So I'm ready whenever you are.
So InClickTrack is a social media analytics platform. It helps you understand what your brand is doing across Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, and lets you compare this data with your competitors. So for example, if you're an agency working with multiple brands, you can add all those brands, get automated reporting. In fact, InClick can automate and reduce 80% of your efforts while you create reports. We can also give you competitive data that no other tool can give you.
So you did it, and you did it in 1/3 of the time. Amazing. I can see that you already did it a few times, didn't you?
We keep doing it every day, actually.
Yeah, so, really? Are you training your elevator pitch every day?
Of course. As I told you, most of our customers come on phones, so every time we pick up the phone, we have to tell them what we do. And once you're selling, once you become that sales guy, you don't get more than 30 seconds. That's the time you will ever get from a big client.
All right. Thank you very much for your time, Siddhant. And keep doing the awesome work you're doing in Clicks. Keep maintaining your awesome beards. Keep hiring those PhDs. And and yeah, I'd be very happy if you'd stay active in our community from time to time. We have a question from people on these tracking tools and about the social media as well. And I think that you're the expert on this topic. So thanks a lot again. And if is there anything you wanna add before we jump off this call? Right now, it's a great time to do.
Guys, if there's anything related to social media analytics, listening, feel free to reach out to me. I am always active on Facebook, Instagram, and hyperactive on LinkedIn, actually.
Yes, that's actually true. I posted the link, and like in a 30 seconds, I saw the like from Siddhant there. So
You can also reach out to me for beer advice if you want.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
So thank you very much. It was a pleasure. And yeah, let's talk soon again.
Sure.
All right. Bye.